3, 2, 1.
Yippee-Ki-Yay, mother.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Welcome to another edition of Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother Podcast. Everybody, hang on.
Michael Rennie was ill the day the earth stood still.
All right. What's going on, Mother Podcasters?
Hey, just digging the song.
How's it going?
That's a great song. That's a little classic from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Show.
So tonight, yes, we're going to do the final remake. I think this remake situation is over after this one.
Oh, it sure is.
I think
it's run its course.
It might have run its course a long time ago, but I enjoyed it. You know, there's a couple surprises out of this group that I thought. This is not one of them. I have to be truthful. I think the Beauty and the Beast got the most hits because of the young ladies on the show. I think that got a lot. But it was fun rewatching pairs like this and to compare them. I have to say it was fascinating, and I quite enjoyed it. But this is the last one.
To watch twice as many movies for the show that no one was watching. That was very fulfilling.
And you liked it so much, you're going to take a month off.
I am taking. That's the other thing I want to talk about. A little hiatus. I'm going to take a little break. For the month of August, I got a move that's happening and some other things.
You're a little burnt out, let's be honest.
And I think it'll give people a chance to catch up with some of our back catalog, which might be nice. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so what we're going to do today is we're going to do the last remake, which is The Day the Earth Stood Still, obviously. Then we're going to do a round of What You Watch. And what we've decided when we come back in September is we're going to do a round of courtroom dramas, which means each one of us will bring a courtroom drama to the table. And we didn't spin a wheel for this, but Chris is going to do the first one. And then we'll have a wheel for the rest of us that picks which one of us is going to do the next few. So Chris, let us know.
Mine's going to be The Passion of Joan of Arc, the Dreyer film.
Does that take place in a courtroom?
Yeah.
Oh.
She's tried for witchcraft.
Oh, I thought you were doing The Verdict.
I know, but I'm thinking a silent movie would bring so many more people in. No, I'm going to stick with The Verdict. I love that movie.
A man for all seasons.
Yeah. Another one.
All right. We don't know
Wait,
what
before
we
have to mention somebody.
Paul Rubens. Yeah. Big deal.
Yeah, he took a hiatus too, and I hope Ralph doesn't take as long a one.
He was he's young. He was 70.
That's what I couldn't believe when it said Paul Rubens is dead. I'm like, oh no. And then it says he was 70. I'm like, well, for one thing, I didn't think he was 70 because he has that youthful demeanor. Even if you saw him, it's like, how can Pee Wee Herman be 70 years old? You know?
Yeah, apparently he fought cancer for 6 years and kept that to himself.
Yeah.
And he was a huge, huge part of my childhood. And so that was really sad news to have this week.
Did you see the letter that he wrote before he passed?
No.
Apologizing for not letting everybody know, but telling them how much he appreciated
I saw a quote of that. Yes,
it was really wonderful. It was a wonderful letter. And that, it's funny because I remember watching the HBO special that he did before the movies.
Yeah, it was filthy.
It was very adult.
Was that one with the shoe mirrors?
Was shoe mirror. He had Jambi.
Well,
he had Phil Hartman.
Oh yeah, right. That's great stuff.
But it was I mean, it was like The Groundlings. That's where it sprung from. Mm-hmm. But his movie, in fact, I watched that movie not too long ago. And you know what? I still laugh at all the silly stuff in the movie. It's brilliant. You can't even believe a movie like that would be as big a hit as it was. But he was just such just an endearing character. And I know he had some issues in his later life, but you know what? He wasn't hurting anybody.
He had one big issue.
Yeah, but he wasn't hurting anybody.
No, I know. Well, maybe the person in front of him, he might have hurt a little bit.
Well, but I'm saying
really. I give him credit. I'm not going to pretend I remember exactly what it was, but after all that happened and everything, he went quiet for a while, and then he walked out in full costume on like an MTV movie awards or something. Exactly what it was. And he said, "Heard any good jokes lately?"
Anyone heard any good jokes?
That was great. That was great.
And I got to admit, I first saw him. It was Cheech and Chong's Nice Dreams. He was a pretty interesting character. I thought I remember being a lot in it, but
he was the waiter in the Blues Brothers.
Oh, that's right too.
He played.
He was in tons of stuff.
Mystery Man.
30 Rock and
Mystery Man.
Mystery Man. He was great.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
The spleen.
That's
right?
one of
He
my
was the
favorite
spleen.
death
Yeah, the
scenes.
spleen.
Is in Buffy. It's
Oh, yeah.
just so funny. Oh.
So anyway, rest in peace.
Rest
Pee Wee
in peace,
Herman.
Paul.
We're gonna
Paul
miss
Rubens.
you.
There
Yeah.
was actually
Very-
there was one other death this week. Not that something that the public would
Death of
generally
our
care
show.
about.
The show is dying.
No, that's a long time ago. Where's
That
Zombie
was 3
Show?
weeks ago.
Bo Goldman, who wrote and got an Oscar for Cuckoo's Nest, he died, and he was 90 years old. So that's
Wow.
a legendary
Can't believe I
screenwriter
forgot.
right there.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, there you go. All right. So we're gonna do The Day the Earth Stood Still. Then we'll do a round of what you watch, and then the show's over for a month. Is that Gort? Okay.
Klatuu
So
Barada
this is
Nikto.
Sean. Sean brought this to the table.
Oh,
Sean,
Sean
let's
has.
talk about it.
See what John has
Well,
there.
yeah, I see. He's got a little gort. That's
Hey,
what I've heard.
hey.
That's a big gort.
It's not the size.
It's not the size of
Klatuu
the
Barada
gourd.
Nikto.
It's not the size of the robot.
Dicto.
The
Okay,
helmet.
so we're dealing with
Helmet.
we're dealing with many people consider one of the this was a very early film, the original Day the Earth Stood Still, 1951. So it's right up there with Forbidden Planet as being one of the first adult science fiction films, as opposed to like Flash Gordon and all. So, you know, the first film was considered a classic. It definitely was a reaction to nuclear fears of the time and McCarthyism as well. You know, so it had a lot of themes going on. And of course, it was a classic film. It was directed by Robert Wise. And so they decided to remake it in 2006, directed by Scott Derrickson, who's a horror movie director who's made good. And it's interesting, they credit the original screenplay in this, but they don't credit the source story. You know, I wonder how that happened. But in the first film, Klaatu comes from another planet to essentially protect their worlds because they've been following the Earth, and the Earth now has nuclear weapons, and they have rockets, and they're like, we got rules on this sort of thing, and if you endanger us, you're going to be destroyed. And in the 2006, he comes to save the Earth again, Klaatu, but not the people.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's like, hey, the Earth's going to do fine without all of you guys on it, you know. So it takes a little different thing. And instead of Michael Rennie, who was ill the day the Earth stood still, we got Keanu Reeves digging deep into his acting skills throughout this entire film. You know, I've never felt as deeply as I did in this film.
Look, what's wrong with this movie is not the acting, except for
Jaden
young,
Smith.
Yeah, one young child
Oh
performance.
God, Jaden Smith!
I wish those things had just taken him out right away. Those bugs or whatever the hell was eating everybody.
They started to, but then they saved
I mean,
him.
Jennifer Connelly. You go, okay, this is going to be all right, and even she. Ugh.
That opening. I will say one thing about the original film. I mean, this.
What makes it a Robert Wise film? What was he known
directed
for? Was
it.
he? I know that, but didn't he direct Some Like It Hot? Who directed? No,
No,
that's
that was
no,
that was Howard Hawks
Yeah, he was more
No.
known for his editing.
or
Billy.
Billy
Who
Wilder.
directed Some Like It Hot?
Billy Wilder.
Billy Wilder.
Robert Wise. What else did he direct?
He directed
Sound
West
of
Side
Music.
Story, Sound of
Okay,
Music.
Okay.
Star
Yeah,
Trek
but
3.
he
The
edited
Haunting.
Citizen Kane.
He edited Citizen Kane.
Citizen
I believe
what?
he reshot the additional scenes
Not
from
familiar with that.
Ambersons.
Well, that's what broke their relationship up.
You know, I mean, he is a classic
Orson
guy.
Welles.
And he also did Star Trek: The Endless Journey.
But we don't.
The
Yeah,
first Star Trek movie.
we don't talk about that film.
Yeah, we want to say good things about Robert Wise.
That's right.
He
I
also
don't know. That
worked
has a hot
on,
Indian actress in it, so it can't
he
be
also
Pierce
worked on
Gambetta.
some of those classic science fiction films horror films for RKO, like Cat People. I believe he was a director of, if I'm not mistaken, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, based on the people stealing bodies from graves, starring Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi.
Who? Robert Wise?
Yeah, I think he directed that, based on the Louis Stevenson thing. Or he edited it, one or the other.
Yeah, I don't think he directed those.
But he was involved in a lot of those films.
And so the original 1951 version is considered a classic, right?
Yes.
And it's one of those you have to watch before you die kind of deal, right?
Well, not if you're not in the genre at all.
It's
you
on,
probably
it's on the
would.
list that I saw.
Yeah.
You have to see it.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
Just so you'll know, my cat just walked on my keyboard and she wrote G and a whole bunch of H's and 6. And I actually found that more emotionally compelling than the script for the 2008 version of The Day the Earth Stood Still. So we could still remake it, I think.
I mean, it's hard to even compare the two. And
can't.
I'm not a big fan of the old black and white. I can't believe the stuff that these guys.
The gray movies.
Have you seen this before, Ralph?
No, I've seen bits and pieces, but not.
Okay, so you watch it the whole thing for the first time.
Yeah. And I have an interesting. It's funny because I'm going to talk about it in what I watched, but I saw Oppenheimer, and it did give me a different perspective about why the film was made. Right, the fears everybody had about the nuclear age and all that. So, in that context, I found it pretty powerful. But again, it's just so goofy at times. It's hard for me to.
What, The Day the Earth Stood Still?
It's just I can't.
Any Christ symbolism?
I mean,
in there
the
that you
little
miss?
slightly Carpenter. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Also, the resurrection.
Yeah, the
and
resurrection.
coming back
of
to
course.
I mean,
save
listen,
every-
it's beautifully shot. There's that scene where he walks into that rental house and he walks into the dark and he's silhouetted as he comes in. That was pretty cool.
And it had Aunt B in it.
Yeah, but right, playing cards, bridge or whatever. But again, it's like it's hard for me to separate, and it's hard for me. But it's compare the two of them. It's like Citizen Kane versus the Cabin Boy or something, or the Pauly Shore film.
To me,
except for what's the Pauly Shore film I love? Son-in-Law's great, but anyway.
Well, let me just say one good thing about the next one, the remake. I thought the beginning was pretty compelling.
Had a good title.
Yeah, it had a good title, but I liked it when they picked her up and they're going down the road in those vehicles and they're like, "What's going on?" He goes, "I don't know, but it's very important. How do you know?" She's like, "What highway? Why'd they clear the highway? It's for us." So I like that whole thing where they grab her. Mm-hmm. It's only after, it becomes unbelievable, when the meteor that they think's a meteor or a craft is about to hit New York and obliterate it. So what do they send all these scientists that they gathered from all the country? They send them up in a helicopter over New York. And where would be if something's going to hit you and create a huge blast wave, where's the last place you would like to be on a freaking helicopter?
I think I'd rather not be on the ground.
Yeah, I think I'd rather be under the ground. I certainly wouldn't want to be in the air. And I certainly love the firsthand, they really had a take charge president of the United States in this movie too.
Well, they left it to Kathy Bates because leave it to the woman.
Yeah.
Let her fix everything, right?
Yeah, how'd that work out?
Terrible.
Yeah, and finally the president gets to make the wrong decision. Oh, let's destroy it. It's like, okay, but God, it's like Jaden Smith,
I can't even tell you how much I hated that kid in this film.
Oh.
I mean, I hated him back then, but then like after his father punched, what's his name at the Oscars, Jaden's on Twitter saying, "Yeah, that's how we do it in our family."
Yeah,
Did he really? Ugh.
They're entitled.
Is he also in After Earth?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Ooh, well, at least you could say one thing about The Day the Earth Stood Still. It wasn't the worst movie Jaden Smith has been in.
I mean, talk about the first one. Why was it? I mean, it was a huge hit, right?
Well, to me, it's classic. It's very matter of fact. It starts all these newscasts, and it's good black and white. The thing, the saucers flying around the world at 4,000 miles an hour. It's like, really? That's pretty impressive, I guess, back then. And, it had just a great message. Humanity had come off World War II thinking that they had made the world a better place. And then what they realize is, it takes them a little while to realize, once the Russians get the bomb and all, it's like, the world's in a much more dangerous place than it was before the war. So there was, a lot of legitimate fears and a lot of concerns about what's going to do it. But it's a very compelling story, too. It's like, always one of the classic stories is Fish Out of Water. And Michael Rennie's here, oddly named Carpenter. I don't know where they got that.
Oh, Jesus.
Jesus.
And he's seeing humanity, and the kid was pretty good. Unlike Jaden Smith, I like this kid in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was good. And
Bobby?
Bobby. And I think Patricia Neal was very good.
Well, I like that Patricia Neal let her kid go off with this guy.
That was odd, wasn't it?
DC.
It's a more trusting.
And the guy who wanted to marry her kept on pushing this kid.
Oh, he was funny.
Hugh Marlowe.
Oh, like, what the hell are you thinking?
There were
You're
no
back in the
groomers back
50s.
then. There were no groomers.
Well,
it's fine.
That's the question of trust. I've seen both of these before, not for quite some time, and I had forgotten how explicitly the remake is like we're here to get rid of you to save the planet, and there was definitely an element of that in the original. I found myself trusting Klatoo's intentions more than the human intentions, which reminded me, this is not a joke, I happen to love this movie, of Escape from the Planet of the Apes, when the apes are back in the 70s and you're like, well, who would hurt these animals? Like, they're extraordinary, but there are people who are being kind to them and then they can't be trusted. And I don't remember doubting us as much as I did this time when I was watching it. And I had forgotten how incredibly, really genuinely intimidating some 7-foot dude in a squishy silver suit could be, because he had real gravitas to me. I don't know, the designs of everything being so simple and smooth, and that was the version of the future and the version of something alien that still feels that way to me. And of course, it's one of those movies like Citizen Kane and other stuff that's influenced so many things. I mean, even like Man of Steel, when Zod arrives and Superman's in custody and all that kind of stuff, and you got to let him go and all these kinds of things. I mean, that felt more like this movie than the remake did, I think. And just in terms of certain scenes and lie detectors and all that kind of stuff. But it was fun to revisit the original, not so much the remake.
You know what about the original? I was listening recently to the Marx Brothers Council podcast. And most of the people on the show were talking about when they were kids, before they were VHS and all, they would tape record the movies just so they could just listen to the audio.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to do that. And this was a film. I had tape recorded it. So I had heard this film, dozens of times more than I've seen it. Because in the old days, the movie would be on like twice a year and, or 3 times a year, and you'd be lucky to see it. So, I tape recorded a number of movies on cassette. And this was one of them, and I listened to it. And what a great early score by Bernard Herrmann.
Sean, what
God, yeah, that's the best part.
Part of being nerd was that?
I was pretty nerdy.
Well, he was wearing a huge.
Would you guys agree?
He was wearing a huge baseball uniform, so he had to pick up some other.
I had plenty of room inside those pants.
Yeah, you know what? The score was good. I have to admit.
It was more Twilight Zone than Psycho.
Well,
the whole thing could be a Twilight Zone episode, and that's not a dig. I mean, it's the template of this kind of encounter type of thing.
Totally. So. That gift he had that gets shot out of his hand. The gift that if he had not, because there's only one, right? I guess they can only make one of those. So, and that gets shot right out of his. That's right out of.
I'll go back home and get another.
What is that thing you destroyed? It's the book that tells you how to cure all diseases in the world. That is a Twilight Zone kind of deal. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure, John, you just loved the 1951 version.
He's got Gort.
I know he's got
Well,
Gort.
look, you have to understand, and Sean already talked about this. This was a serious film made by serious filmmakers with a serious cast. Patricia Neal, Michael Rennie had done nothing in the U.S. They picked him because he was they felt he was kind of alien looking, tall and thin, had that voice. But you look at the whole cast. Sam Jaffe's in it as the professor. This one, they had John Cleese. The special effects were, you've seen saucers before, but you've never seen one land in D.C. So that was a big deal. And that robot, the remake was just so overblown. It was ridiculous. Even the spaceships, the orbs, and you think about how simple the story was of the original one. Like, it was a 7-foot robot versus a gun, whatever you call it, like a Godzilla robot. You didn't need that to be intimidating. And the test that they did in the original was to show their power. We're just going to cut all power for so many seconds. And that scene where everything is frozen and nothing's moving was so tense and powerful, as opposed to the overblown baloney they did in the remake. It just wasn't necessary. Now I get it's so many years apart, but you didn't need it. And the only thing they pulled from the movie, they go to the chalkboard and did the formula. That was like the one thing that was taken from the original movie. It's just such a, and again, you got to remember the time it came out when everyone was worried about the bomb.
That's what I'm saying. In context, I can see why.
So imagine seeing that in the message that it was trying to send, and it was also the communism and all this other stuff. But it's just such a simple film that was serious in tone. One of the few, right? There was a couple at that time. And to Drew's point, how many films going forward did it influence, right? People still talk about it to this day. This film, the one that we just, the remake of it, who the hell talks about that movie? And it wasn't Keanu Reeves' fault. I mean, they wrote it that way. He's going to be a stiff in the movie. He had more life in the beginning when he was a real person, unlike when he became the alien when it took over.
You mean when he had no dialogue?
Yeah, exactly. It was just so stupid. It was just dumb. It was just so, like I said, it was so overblown.
It was so wrong-headed.
You find in these in remakes, and I get it that the technology changes, so they want to show off real impressive special effects. But the first thing I thought when I saw the giant robot, it reminded me of the animated stuff with the cars that not the Transformers, the Japanese stuff. Ultron, it builds one giant robot. You didn't need that in the first one. That 7-foot thing was intimidating enough what it was doing. So that's to me why it's such a classic film. Because when you think of classic science fiction, right? Every genre there are classics. The Day the Earth Stood Still is always in like the top 5 of classic science fiction. And again, why? Because it was a serious film by serious people, and they took the subject matter seriously. Even with him coming out with that ridiculous spacesuit with the square cut out. Yeah, it was dumb, but no one had seen anything like that at the time, So that's why, to me, it's a classic. And you remake a classic. It was just awful. I mean, that's all I can say. It was just so bad, and everybody was bad in it too. And no one like jumped out at me. John Hamm, John Cleese. Like, what the hell is
James
this about?
Hong was good. I liked him.
Yeah, he was good. But that's another thing. There's a lot of aliens here. There's a lot of aliens here. They all got to go back to their planet. No, alien and
was a
cop.
Was this a Scott Derrickson? Was this a Scott Derrickson dream project or something? I don't really know.
I don't think so, because he's a writer too, and he didn't write this.
Oh, that's
it was
true.
a bad
I think
dream.
this was a reward for him.
He's done movies that I liked. Like, I think Sinister is one of my favorite current horror movies. It's so dark and suspenseful and stuff. And this is a movie about potentially the end of the world that lacks that kind of drama. So
right.
Well, you got Jaden Smith and the whole thing. My dad. Shut up. I mean, if this was an Indian film, that kid would have been slapped like 12 times and be done. I mean, it's like, ugh. And sure, her relationship with him, with the son or stepson, I don't know if he was a stepson. I didn't.
It was confusing. Yeah.
I just didn't buy any of that. It was gross. And I don't know.
The first time I saw this movie, I was disturbed by that, because I'm sitting there thinking, well, what about his birth family? His mother died. Father marries her. It doesn't seem like they were together long. And on one hand, you'd say, yeah, she would end up with the kid. But then on the other hand, you think, wouldn't one of the grandparents end up with the kid, maybe?
No, she's a step-parent. If she's a step-parent.
Well,
here's the thing. Are you having trouble with your light there, Sean? Because you guys have gone.
Debbie doesn't like the light in her eyes, so we're kind of dark.
Here's the thing about...
Well, video needs light, guys. We need light.
Yeah.
Let there be light.
Huh.
Well,
you could wear sunglasses.
Oh, holy cow! Well, I can see why, but you need to be able.
So anyway, sorry.
Get some sun. You have sunglasses.
Having a hard time. Well, I was out in the sun today, but
tossing football
in the pool. Yeah, but the thing is with Jaden, I imagine the director trying to direct this kid and say, just imagine, just be a normal kid. He doesn't get that. He wasn't raised.
Yeah, just be a normal.
Well, I try to be a normal kid.
I don't know what the direction was, but whatever it was.
Who knows? But that didn't work.
It didn't work.
Now here's my about the remake. I like the remake, and I like the way. the orbs came, and it was like when Kathy Bates, she goes, "Oh, she figured it out. These orbs are
Arcs.
the arc, yeah, the arcs, and there was like all kind of creatures in them, and I like that idea. They're going to protect those creatures rather than the human beings. That's how.
I'm sorry, I must have missed that. So they were going to keep them in there while everything was getting eaten, and then let them go after.
Yeah,
They weren't taking them away. They weren't going to take them away.
They were going to take them away, and then the people would be killed.
It seemed to be eating metal and human beings.
And that would be
organic.
The
they'd be eating
solution.
animals too. I mean, they go.
Yeah, but
that's not been figured out. That didn't make any sense to me.
But then he changed his mind, because they made the point, the case, the case for him.
She said, "Please give us another chance." She cried.
Yes, and that was what did.
Well, no, Jaden Smith.
Listen, if Jennifer Connelly cried to me, I'd give her whatever she wanted. Okay,
that's right, and that's what happened. Yeah. There you go.
That woman is
Keanu
still.
Reeves said, "All right, let's try it. Let's leave. Let's just go."
Chris, what were you
talking about? Can I wait a minute? I want to point out one more thing that irritates me to no end. When the
me?
No, baby, I love you. I would assume someone on this film had traveled across the United States, but when the metal-eating insects come up, it's obviously in the West. And there's oil derricks and this and that, and it eats all that area and it eats the truck. And, I know there are oil derricks in Pennsylvania and all, but that did not look like Pennsylvania, but it eats all that, goes by a sign, it's like Pittsburgh, 2 miles. I'm like, in the old days, they would shoot everything in California and say it was, wherever. But can't get away with that. That was obviously like Arizona or something, or Texas. And here it's like, oh, this is 12 miles from Pittsburgh. Hey, I've been to Pittsburgh. This was not Pittsburgh.
Well, frankly, who gives a shit? I mean, the movie was so stupid that's what you got.
That point in the movie. That's the crazy thing, right, Sean?
Yeah.
What?
Well, I figured out what the movie is. I'm looking at the notes that I took, and I wrote 2008 version is like dumb Arrival. And that's pretty much what it is. I love Arrival. I think it's brilliant. I think it's fascinating.
The Charlie Sheen.
Not the Arrival. Not the Arrival.
No, you're talking about with
Arrival with Amy Adams.
No, The Arrival's great too. Yeah.
The Arrival is great, but I'm talking about Arrival, which is about an alien encountering Earth and how does the world react and interact with each other and all this kind of stuff. Except dumb. Like, it's just dumb, and I don't get it. If somebody wants to remake this movie, I think you could do something interesting with it, but it doesn't look like the kind of thing to me, just watching it now, where I was like, man, this would really be great if it was updated or something like that. It doesn't. I'm not against the idea of a remake, but this did not do it for me.
Yeah. The only thing I could say is like the orbs going, the showing how they disregarded human beings so much. So,
and I loved how Keanu Reeves kept saying to Jennifer Connelly all the time, "I'm here to save the Earth." "Oh, good, you're here to save us." "Well, I'm here to save the Earth."
Well, actually, that's not a bad message. Chris, what were you going to say?
One thing I was going to say is while I really enjoyed the first one, Patricia Neal, I'm a huge fan of. Breakfast at Tiffany's, HUD. She's fantastic in HUD. If you haven't seen it, go see HUD. She's fantastic. But I'm going to throw out a little bit of a defense of the newer one, and a very little defense at that. I did really like the way that, the first one is about nuclear detente, right? It's about nuclear annihilation. If you guys are aggressive toward us, we're going to blow you up. I did like how they switched it up a little bit, and they made it an environmental message in the second one, because I'm looking at it in 2008. Let's be realistic. By 2008, we weren't in a situation where, yes, there was a global war on terror, but that wasn't going to destroy the United States, things like that, right? It wasn't going to cause like a massive change. Sure, people could die, whatever. But the possibility of, destroying ourselves via destroying the environment, that's a legitimate thing. So I kind of like the way that he showed up and he was like, hey, you know what? There aren't a lot of good worlds out there. And you guys are wrecking this house. So we're about to evict you. You know what? I'm sorry, frat boys, you're about to go. And I kind of liked that vibe. I like the fact that that was the idea behind it. They were saying that, you know what, other species have value too, not just you, but other species as well. And we're going to save this world for them and somebody else who might take better care of it. The problem is that the rest of the movie is pretty bad, and that they don't earn. And I'm sorry, but in my opinion, and I love Jennifer Connelly. Okay, I've been in love with her since Labyrinth.
Basically. Since career opportunities for me.
Labyrinth for me. But that being said, she doesn't. They don't earn it. Like, there was no reason why he would have changed his mind from what they showed him. Right? I didn't buy like his changing his desire because what? Because this kid and her and I don't know. I didn't buy that. I
think the kid would have made him destroy the earth.
That's what I don't
feel like. They explained it, Chris. Now, one thing I liked about this one too, they did explain why they had that. He came to take over. Is because where was my thought? Too much sun, and that light is killing me. But they came because their society did the same thing.
I need a break.
And that's why they had to have these controls put in place.
They got to destroy their world, and we don't get to.
No, they almost came to destruction, and then they hired out these
No, that's the first film.
Yeah, but then Keanu Reeves did some kind of fancy footwork there with his words and said,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? This is why they came to the same, atomic displacement or whatever problem. And then they had to reevaluate and, nix it and protect.
Well, I guess I guess my thing is this is in the remake, my thing is I like the premise. I like the change. I like the switch, right? The updating of it. What I didn't think really worked was everything else.
Yeah, the movie, right?
Yeah.
Including,
it was only the movie that was a problem.
Yeah, including the part where, like I said, I just didn't think they made a good case for saving humanity. Let me put it that way. I didn't think they made a good case for it. Sure, James Hong says, I love it here. I'm going to die with these people that I've lived with for 70 years. And they keep saying, oh, these aren't our leaders. And I'm like, you don't really want to put your eggs in that basket, necessarily. But anyway, like I said, the first one's obviously a classic, and you can see that, like we've mentioned before, just about how much influence it's shown in other places. But the new one, it's like, it's always a really huge gamble to try to remake something like that. And they obviously came out snake eyes this time.
It's amazing, but then you look at a film like we keep talking about, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which the original is a classic, and I'm talking about the '78 version with Donald Sutherland. Is a cold hard classic. I mean, it's and they pulled it off. And I don't know. I was looking at the IMDb. Keanu Reeves not much going on in 2008. He had The Lake House and some other. This guy's been around a long time, so he wasn't. Was he the draw for that film? Was it Jaden Smith? Was that suddenly this kid?
No.
I mean, John Hamm. Was John Hamm doing Mad Men at the time in 2008? So he might.
Yeah, he was trying to break out. This was not.
I don't know what they were. I don't. You're right. As a movie, it just was a terrible movie. The message was good. The message was good. The movie just.
Do you think if we had watched the remake, but it was dubbed in Telugu, it would have been better?
Perhaps.
I feel like that would have been better, but
I think it was in black and white, maybe.
No, it just was bad. It was bad.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was. And I think sometimes, like, you talk about that, Ralph, sometimes they get an idea, they start pushing forward with their idea. So they say, hey, we're going to throw Kathy Bates in there. Okay, John Hamm's winning Emmys for Mad Men. We're going to throw him in there. Jennifer Connelly is always good for,
it's all fun. Chemistry.
And we got John Cleese for a little gravitas.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't
Sam
know.
Jaffe was better.
Yeah.
It was a weird casting to me.
It was weird.
You got to wonder whether if they realized that this just was not going to work. And I think a lot of times with these special effects movies, you're not going to know. But I mean, I read an interview with Rob Reiner about the film North or whatever he was, and it's like And they knew, they said that he said he knew on the second day that this movie was not going to work.
Oh, really?
Crazy.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, with a special effects film,
well,
I think you're right. You're doing the film and you're like, well, some of these performances don't seem to be working. But maybe once we get, once all the visuals are in, it's going to overwhelm you.
I've read a couple of things. I read Patricia Neal was laughing while she was reading her lines in this film. Like she
the original.
The original. She couldn't get behind the fact that this is serious. And then I just read an oral history of The Fugitive, right? And they're on that film. Tommy Lee Jones and Harrison Ford are convinced that their careers are over based on what they were dealing with in that thing. So it's like you just can't. It's chemistry. You just
don't
can't
know
predict.
at the time.
We always say this. It's lightning in a bottle, right?
Right.
And in a remake, it's doubly hard to try to do that. How the Invasion of the Body Snatchers pulled it off. I mean, Kaufman directed that. Philip Kaufman, I believe. So he has a sensibility that's perfect for the 70s. That came out in 78, right? You talk about paranoia and stuff.
Did you see the Abel Ferrara one?
I did not. I did not.
That's also very good too.
Really?
Did you see the original?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
56. I have it on 16
McCarthy comes running in the 78.
Well, he has it on Laserdisc.
So I don't know.
Right,
you
Ralph?
can't. And this, what's that?
I said, well, you have it on Laserdisc, right, Ralph?
I have, yes, Invasion, both of them on Laserdisc.
You never disappoint with the Laserdisc.
But this one, I'm looking at the 2008. It just, I have to say, honestly, Jaden Smith drove me insane. Like I couldn't believe that they were letting that kid do that stuff in the film. It's just like.
Do you think it could have been because he had a famous father?
Of course, I don't know. Will Smith might have been sitting on the set for all I know. And 2008
with his slap hand ready.
What year did Men in Black come out? Does anybody know? Was that close to this, or was that way earlier than this?
It was way earlier.
That was earlier.
Yeah, that was.
I don't think Will Smith didn't have a kid when he made that movie.
Okay, so I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know. He's a cute kid. I mean, let's face it, he's a cute kid.
He's adorable.
But
well, what does that have to? I mean, yeah. Anyway, so
it doesn't.
I mean, it's the other one's a Stone Cold Lock is a classic. Now, I mean, I have to now admit that after seeing
Snuggle at Court.
Yeah. So, all right, no rating. We're good.
No, John hasn't really talked about it.
No.
I mean,
I talked about it.
He did. We talked.
I love the first one.
You were talking to
Which
Gort,
one?
though.
What did you like about the second one?
What did I like about it? The end credits.
Yeah, the end when it said the end
were solid, really solid.
Solid credits.
I thought the whole thing was stupid. It was like this. The first one is so simple in its storytelling, and this one is so convoluted. I just didn't. I thought all the performances from people who are generally pretty good were lousy.
You would think.
So that's why I was just like, it's just. And then they just. Again, it's one alien and a robot in the first movie, but in this one they got to have all the orbs, they got to have all the aliens that have been on the planet. It's like, why?
Yeah,
Why
Kyle Chandler's in there too.
Yeah.
That's what I don't understand.
I mean,
It's like-
it's all grade A people with a grade Z film, unfortunately.
It
And you're right.
happens.
They take this 7-foot robot that just stands there in the other one and is intimidating, and they
Right.
shove this other one in a tunnel that they're going to blow them up at whatever.
For
that
no
giant-
reason.
Yeah, there's no reason. She jumps on a plane with all these other signs. It's so convoluted. All right, enough.
Okay.
And
So-
he had superpowers. that
Everybody
the
sad.
first guy didn't have.
Are we sad that the remakes are over?
I'm sorry.
I like the
really enjoyed
remakes. They were
remakes.
great. Great
Because
idea.
most of the remakes suck. That's why.
Pretty
No,
much.
we
Not all.
had some
No,
surprisingly
we had
good
some
ones.
good ones.
We did, but we've been doing this a while. They all haven't been, home runs.
Right.
I would have
Makes you
liked to have
appreciate
seen,
the
like,
original.
They got to
so
third
much more.
base.
like Flight of the Phoenix. I would have almost put
That's
that
a great one. That's a great one.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're done with those. We're going on.
All right, that's it.
Courtroom
drama.
Courtroom dramas.
I
I
object.
have to admit, I've been fighting for the remake. Audience out there, I've been telling Ralph we should do remakes for years. So,
Well, we took it under advisement, and we did.
So Chris remade your suggestion.
No, remakes wasn't me. I was Cage Man.
I don't, Chris. Every time you and Ralph go out to dinner, all of a sudden we got some new brainstorm for the next show. So let's
Yeah.
not pretend like you
well,
have
when
nothing to do
Ralph
with it.
moves,
Like,
to-
look,
Well,
these
I
movies
love-
are in
I
jail
want to
together.
say this. I love the Cage.
Studio Cage
Oh,
Match
yeah.
was a good
I
run.
loved
Cage
it.
match.
I loved
Ralph.
that. That was
Audience
Ralph.
loved it too.
Listen, while we're drinking at the bar, I've got a great idea. Let me tell you my idea, Ralph.
That's how-
Whatever you
that's how-
say, Chris. Whatever you say,
That's how Chris talks.
How about movies where people wear pants?
All right, for my last episode before we go on hiatus, could we please do what you watch quickly?
Sure.
All right. Thank you.
Why don't you start, Ralph?
I'm going to start. I saw we talked about Barbie last week.
I'm going to keep it short. I saw 3 things.
I'm going to be quick. Oppenheimer. Talk about a Stone Cold classic. It was great. I saw it in 70 millimeter at the AFI theater. The only thing I didn't like about it, and it's typical with Christopher Nolan, is the music overtakes the talking. And for some reason, the whole movie is covered with music. Even in scenes where 2 people are talking, he's ramping up and down, except, obviously, which is why he does this, the Trinity test. It's like all of a sudden, nothing. And
did Hans Zimmer do the music?
I don't know who did the music. Very effective. Very effective when it goes silent. But there are scenes that I wanted to hear people. I like scenes where the people are talking to each other. Zodiac and movies where just people are in rooms, and if the dialogue is good and crisp, it's musical. And he's
Ludwig Göransson.
He loads.
I did not find it as overwhelming. We did not see it in the IMAX or anything.
I didn't see IMAX. I was in a 70 millimeter.
To me, I could understand the dialogue.
It's not that
like Tenet.
No, it wasn't like Tenet.
You couldn't hear it.
It wasn't that I couldn't understand. It's like, I don't think we need dramatic music in every single scene, is all I'm saying. Okay.
Good point.
Then I also saw Mission Impossible, which I couldn't wait to see, and I wasn't that thrilled. I have to admit. Loved it. I loved it. I love the stuff going on in it, but I just feel like it's a little bit too. They understand too much what they have, and they're playing too much with that. And the idea that people come in and out of his group and how people are used, and then whatever.
Big drop in the second weekend.
Yeah,
brunette women. You mean?
That's what I mean. Things happen. There are people that I really liked who are not there anymore, Jerry Renner and stuff like that. But also, they know what they have. They're on the nose with everything, and I'm finding it a little. I found this one not as good as the other 5 or 6 that have been. I can't wait, but honestly, I can't wait for the second half of this because it might bring it all together.
Yeah, it might change your feeling.
Change my feeling. Yeah. So I'm waiting on that one.
Well, the last movie was probably the best one, I think.
I like the Brad Bird one where he climbs the tower.
Yeah, my favorite was the 5th one, Rogue Nation, which is good because all of those movies are good. All those movies are entertaining.
This one I
There's
didn't have
for all of them.
Yeah, this one didn't. It left me a little colder than the other ones.
Yeah, no, I didn't have that.
Still enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it as much.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun.
That's it for me. Yeah. John.
So I'm a huge fan of Justified with Timothy Oliphant, and they've got the new one out, Justified City Primeval. I'm not going to watch it till all the episodes drop, but I have been going back and rewatching a lot of the old Justified. It is a great show. He is great. Walter Coggins, is that his name? Goggins. As Boyd Crowder is great. And the bad guys, I'll tell you, this was one show where every season the bad guys were awesome. I mean, always really, really strong. And if you've never seen the show, check it out because it's really, really well done. And his character, Raylan Givens, is a great character. And he's a sheriff, but it's a great show. Check it out if you haven't. I can't wait to watch the new one as soon as all the episodes drop. So check it out. How's that for quick?
That's good. He's a great actor.
Is that on Netflix?
No, it's on. I think it's on Hulu. Is it on Hulu?
Hulu is the streaming service it runs on. Yes.
So I'm not. The show was on FX.
Yeah.
So I don't know where it is now.
What's the Western he did on HBO? I can't think of the name.
Deadwood. Yeah,
I'm converted.
He's also in he's very good in The Mandalorian too. He's good in pretty much.
Yeah,
and the Hitman. He was great in Hitman.
Yeah, he is.
And The Grinder.
There's a movie called Go. Go's another one. He was early
yes.
with him.
Doug Liman's second film.
Yeah, he's really good.
After Swingers.
All right, Sean and Debbie.
Debbie, did you watch anything?
Yeah, I watched Gary Shandling's Zen. It's a documentary about by Judd Apatow. And it's okay. I mean, and then the second part, there's part 1 and part 2. And the part 2, you have to pay for it. So I said, nah, I'm not going to.
What is it, a documentary on him? What is it?
Gary Shandling.
Gary Shandling, a comedian.
I love Gary Shandling. The Gary Shandling show was great.
I love him too, but he was in search of himself for a long time. He was a guy that pretty much in a nutshell, this documentary is like he turned internally. You know, he looked at his self as I don't know, trying to find meaning in his life, and he was so self-focused. He, you know, that's what the piece showed me about this man who died.
Because Judd Apatow, of course, Judd Apatow has to have a 2-part documentary. You can't just.
And then you got to pay for the second part.
Right.
I like how they get the first one for free. It's like a drug dealer.
Yeah.
I want to add
Like
something.
crack.
I've been listening to podcasts people here recommended. Eye of the Duck, and I was listening to their science fiction ones, and I was watching 2001: A Space Odyssey and listening to their podcast. And as many times as I've seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, including numerous times 70 millimeter on the big screen, I will say that I thought they added something, because if you've watched the film, you'll notice that the first almost 3 minutes of the film is black, and there's just that chaotic noise music on it. I forgot what the piece is called. And the one guy picked that, the very black at the opening of the film, as the Eye of the Duck. And he was interpreting it that was the obelisk. Not the obelisk, the
monolith.
The monolith. Because the monolith is black. And when they go push into it later, it's the same kind of totally black screen. So, and thinking that that's the monolith right there at the beginning of the film, and that's the sound of the void and everything, it really makes me look at the movie in a new way.
That's great.
So I thought that was a pretty cool podcast.
Yeah,
and
they're
it's a
good.
new way of looking at a film I've seen so many times.
Yeah, they just laugh. The guy laughs too much. What's his name? Not the Brit, the other guy.
Dom. Yeah, it was Dom. the Brit that came up with this insight about.
He's got interesting takes on the films. The scenes he picks is always quite interesting. He's a filmmaker as well.
Well, it pissed me off once because when they did the new Dawn of the Dead, the scene he picked as an Eye of the Duck was one that was a special feature that wasn't in the theatrical release.
That was cheating a little bit.
And I'm like, oh, come on. That is not the... If it was the Eye of the Duck, it would have been in the freaking movie.
Right.
But this was I thought a very good insight. So,
Eye of the Duck is a quote, Chris. I don't know if you know this. Eye of the Duck is a quote from David Lynch. That says the way you know a duck is a duck is a duck. You have to look at their eyes, and that's how you determine. And an Eye of a Duck scene is the one
David
scene
Lynch.
in a film that explains the whole film. You pick
that defines the film.
Yeah, we've done that. We did Maison Scene or something that we did that. We tried that one time. They're monetizing a lot better than we can ever try, but whatever. Crys.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. Two things.
Good
Talk
luck.
about new crime TV shows that are coming back. Dark Wind is back for a second season on AMC, so check it out. The further adventures of Joe Leaphorn and Jim Chi on the Navajo Res. First season was fantastic. I haven't watched the first episode yet, but I bet it's fantastic. But this weekend, I actually went deep on my in my geek life and went to a convention, an anime convention, for the entire weekend. And I saw.
What were you saying about me, Debbie?
And
an anime convention?
Oh yeah, in DC. Yeah, I went and there's about 30,000 people there, and actually a little over 30,000. And I actually watched a movie called Macross Plus, and it was
nice.
It was the theatrical version, which I'd never seen. I'd seen the 4-episode version of the quote unquote TV version, and it was absolutely it was terrific. It was stunning. It's 2D animation on a just like they just don't make anymore. And like I've always said, I've always been a big fan of Japanese animation, and I'll take the Pepsi challenge with anything Disney's ever put out as far as that's concerned. Sometimes they don't make a whole lot of sense, fully admit that, and but pretty great. So, and a small note to that, that TV version of Macross Plus, the main character, his dub he was dubbed by one Bryan Cranston.
Oh, wow.
Back when in the 90s when Cranston was, I guess, hurting for some money. He dubbed like the main character for the first 3 episodes. I guess he got a job and didn't need the 4th episode.
That came out in 94?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That may have been when it was released in Japan. I think it was released in the United States later. But yeah.
Would you say he was Breaking Bad?
Not yet. Wasn't he doing what was that? Malcolm in the Middle?
The kid show.
Malcolm in the Middle.
Malcolm in the Middle.
He was great on that. Cranston.
Yeah, he was. He was hilarious.
There's a scene he does on rollerblades that is a classic. He's so good. Did you guys hear Disney's not gonna be putting out any DVDs and Blu-rays pretty soon? No more media. No more physical media.
Physical media. That sucks, man.
That's such a big surprise.
Well, I think they're starting. They're starting in a few territories, but I think they're legitimately going to shut it down.
Well, that's dumb.
Yeah,
they were hostile to putting it out initially. Remember, they only released the animated features with great reluctance.
I got a lot of Black Diamond VHSs that are worth $30,000 on eBay. But,
really,
I can't seem to sell them. All right, Drew, you get the last. What'd you watch before the hiatus?
So I watched a couple of movies that I had never seen that had been on my list for some time. One of them was the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie, which I thought was perfectly entertaining.
I saw it. I liked it.
Yeah, I like Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez and everybody in it. It was really fun.
I like those Chris's.
I had a friend over on Saturday. We watched the first Jack Reacher movie, which I don't know that it's a great adaptation of the character of Jack Reacher by about 1.5 feet, but I think it's a really solid action movie. I think it's the first Tom Cruise directed by Chris McQuarrie movie, and that's really good.
Could Amir Khan play that?
We were gonna watch Top Gun Maverick, but my friend said, "You know what I want to watch? Over the Top." So we watched that, which I have never seen and did not enjoy. Yeah, it's still an arm wrestling movie. But then I found a little treasure on Hulu by Neil Marshall. And as you know, Neil Marshall directed a movie about people getting lost in the dark, and there's monsters there called The Descent, and Dog Soldiers as well. And he has a newish movie called The Lair, starring his wife, which is about soldiers in Afghanistan discovering a secret Russian vault that's full of monsters or some nonsense. And it's not good, but it's still pretty fun. It's pretty fun. All the effects are practical and cheap, and rubber monsters and things like that. But Jamie Bamber, who is an actor that you might know as Apollo in the Battlestar Galactica reboot, he's a British guy. In the entire Battlestar Galactica, he's perfectly believable American accent. He's the commander of this unit in the desert. I don't know what he's doing. It's like a combination of just straight Dundalk and Tom Hardy in The Revenant and like Baltimore cartoon characters. It is so bizarre. I would say it took me out of the movie, but it became my favorite part of the movie. So like if you pull up The Lair on Hulu and you don't want to watch it, just go to like 55 minutes in. He makes a speech. It'll give you everything. It's not the only scene he's in, but it's really quite extraordinary. And I like how my hometown accent is so distinct. I really don't think you can miss it anywhere.
That's great. All right. Well, all right. So this on to the hiatus. We got
I'm gonna miss you guys.
We got a huge back catalog. People want to watch any of our old shows? Please do. I don't want to beg, but I mean it's a good catalog.
I just feel bad for our fans.
Bill, you know what? I have a feeling. I think they need a break from us as well.
Absence makes the heart go.
That's right.
They've definitely been tuning in religiously, and they need a break. Good point.
They might want us to come back in a month. We'll see.
I want them to put Young Frankenstein over 100K. I'm ready.
This isn't the movie. You guys are frauds.
All right. Well, enjoy the month of August.
Ralph, I hope you decompress. I hope you
it's gonna be very busy. Very busy. I got a house to move. I got kids to move. I got a lot going on. So it's gonna be fine. But it'll be a good break, I think. So
yeah, it will be. I think for all of us.
I think you're right. So
because you've gotten a little snippy the last couple of weeks.
I'm gonna play some music. So. All right, guys. Have a good month.
See ya.
I'll see you on your other shows.
See you guys.
Talk to you soon.
I hope we come back.
We will.
See you in India.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Ralph. Well, I guess I'll talk to you in a month.